Hello, I'm Caroline Fairchild, and welcome to LinkedIn News Live, where the business conversation begins with you. In honor of National Hispanic Heritage Month, we're taking a look at the economic and cultural powerhouse that is the Latinx community. Joining us for this important conversation is one of the few and youngest Hispanic CEOs in the S&P 500, Mauricio Gutierrez. Gutierrez. He's the CEO of Houston-based power provider NRG Energy. He started his career in Mexico working on various power and infrastructure projects and moved on to work at energy company Dynegy until moving to NRG in 2004. Mauricio has degrees in industrial engineering, petroleum economics, and mineral economics. Mauricio, welcome to LinkedIn News Live.
Caroline, thank you. It's great to see you. And since we're celebrating Hispanic Month, should I say Carolina?
Sí se puede.
Muy bien.
I apologize. We had this whole conversation about Mauricio mispronouncing my name, and of course, then I mispronounced his at the beginning of the show. So I do apologize to you for that. I've been looking forward to this conversation all week. Your path to this, I speak to a lot of CEOs, and your path to the C-suite is uncommon. You started your career in Mexico. You were a competitive swimmer at some point. I'm sure our audience would just love to hear how those experiences shaped how you think about leading such a 7,000 person company like NRG.
Well, thank you, Caroline. And, I've been, incredibly blessed on my career path. As you said, I was born and raised in Mexico City. I started my career there. Competitive swimming was definitely a pillar on my education. It taught me the value of discipline and hard work. Very early in my career, after getting my degree in engineering, I was fascinated by the energy industry. I got involved in the deregulation of the natural gas industry in Mexico. And, very soon after, I wanted to, just to be where they were testing a lot of the new business models. And here in the United States, deregulation was really up and coming. It was bringing competition into, this very important industry, the energy industry, and I was fascinated with it. I think we all agree that energy, just has shaped the world as we know it today, both from a social, economic, and political standpoint, and its relevance is unquestionable. So it has been an incredible journey, and that took me to Houston, then Princeton, and back to Houston, leading one of the largest electric companies in the United States.
Well, entering a new industry, particularly entering a new industry that's constantly changing in a new country, it takes a lot of courage. Where did you find the strength to jet onto this career path?
Well, I think it boils down to passion. I was passionate about the energy industry and what it represents for people. I mean, it's a better life, whether it is powering hospitals, providing light, providing safety, warmth. So I really followed my passion, and I knew that I was gonna give some up. I knew that I had to make some sacrifices, leaving my family, leaving my hometown. But it is pursuing that passion. And I often get the question about ingredients for success, and I said, well, one of the ingredients for success is doing what you're passionate about, because it's going to be challenging anyway. So you might as well do something that you really, really enjoyed. And that was the case for me. So that brought me to where, things were really happening in terms of a new business model, a competitive model that had the consumer at the center of it. And I ended up here in Houston.
You ended up there in Houston, and now you're the CEO. But unfortunately, there are not a lot of CEOs that look like you. And I want to take a look at some data that we have that shows the representation of Hispanics in the executive suite, in the C-suite, and also in other levels of the pipeline. Let's take a look at these numbers together, Mauricio. If you look at these, you can see down to administrators, there's still a huge disparity in representation from the Hispanic community. It's not a pipeline issue. I think you and I can both agree on that. But what do you think we need to do to get more Hispanics into leadership positions to set them on the path that you were able to blaze for yourself?
Well, it's not lost on me that I'm one of the few Hispanic CEOs in the Fortune 500. And obviously that comes with some responsibility. So I have lend my voice to advance diversity, equity, and inclusion. I actually am incredibly proud of what we have been able to accomplish here at NRG. Our board of directors, when I took over, was not necessarily very diverse. Today is one of the most diverse boards in the Fortune 500. But as I see these numbers, I mean, I don't think these are. I think people understand that this is happening, and perhaps they talk about a pipeline. I disagree. I mean, I don't think the pipeline is an excuse. It's just it is the commitment and specific actions that we need to take to ensure that diverse candidates move on to leadership positions across many sectors. I think it needs to go beyond just good intentions, and it has to be taking specific actions. And I'm happy to talk to you about some of the specific actions that we're taking, but it has to be that open and transparent commitment that you have with all your stakeholders, and then they can hold you accountable to see if you're actually hitting those numbers.
I'm sure the stream would love to hear some of the actions that you took to transform NRG's board, because we've been talking about this issue for many, many years now, and a lot of the numbers are moving at a glacial pace. How did you transform NRG's board to be one of the most diverse?
Well, the first thing is transparency. I mean, you cannot fix what you don't see. And anybody who's on the journey of diversity, equity, and inclusion has to be self-aware that there is an issue. So transparency and awareness is the basic pillar. Then is establishing an open line of communication with your stakeholders. We did it through our sustainability report. We actually reported our diversity numbers, and they are not where they need to be. But that's the first step, is just to open that line of communication. The third thing is the tone at the top. And it was not lost on me that the board actually took a chance on me, being a Hispanic young CEO. And I appreciated that, but at the same time, that comes with some responsibility. I work with the chairman of the board, and today over 60% of our board members are diverse board members, which I think it allows me to have a conversation across the company that we are serious about it, that it really starts at the very top. There are other things that we have done, and we have actually put diversity, equity, and inclusion at the center of shaping our culture and informing every decision that we make. We made diversity, equity, and inclusion one of our corporate values. We talked about it constantly. It informs everything that we're doing. And we are focused on education. Training is important. Unconscious bias training is something that it needs to be done. We look at perhaps the barriers that we were self-imposing, to diverse candidates. So when you look at job requirements, regardless of what was the job, we were asking for a 4-year degree. That already is a barrier to entry for many diverse candidates that perhaps cannot afford a 4-year education. So we really look across the board to see what are the things that we could do to really move the needle.
Well, fortunately, Mauricio, we're seeing in LinkedIn data that 4-year degree is dropping off of more and more job recommendations that we're seeing on the site as an aside. But Mauricio, I find it extremely interesting that you said that the head of the board took a chance on making you CEO, because you have just an incredible track record of experiences that warranted you to be able to have that position. Do you feel like most underrepresented CEOs feel like they are taking a chance, or feel that obligation like you feel to be not just be a representation of you, but of an entire group of people?
Well, I think we are in a transition period. I think the will by a lot of boards to have more representation in leadership positions, or diverse candidates in leadership positions, is happening. I was incredibly excited to see Mary Barra yesterday to be named chairman of the Business Roundtable. I think that speaks for itself. And no, I mean, when you do take the leadership of a company as a CEO, I think it's a combination of many things. It is, timing. It is, having the right people to support you, and a little bit of luck, being in the right place at the right time. Obviously, you need to have the track record. You need to have the capabilities to be able to lead the organization. But never underestimate the fair share of having good support, and create a network that at some point will actually help you advance your career.
Speaking of those networks, I think that looking at the data, they vary widely based on where you are city by city. Representation of Hispanic CEOs is few and far between, but there are some bright spots if we look at the country. St. Louis, Detroit, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, and Miami, these are the top 5 in terms of Hispanic representation in the C-suite. Houston is not here, Mauricio, but I'm curious if you have any thoughts on what these cities are doing right, or what's happening at a city level to foster Hispanic talent in executive leadership positions.
Well, the first thing is just to have that pipeline that you were talking about. I mean, you need to have the people that are that have gone in their careers, that they're ready for a leadership position. And I think these cities, perhaps they've had diversity, they've had representation for many years, and now their constituents, their leaders are rising up to take more prominent and leadership positions. When I see Houston, I mean, Houston is an incredibly diverse city. It's perhaps one of the most diverse cities in the country, if not the most diverse city in the country. And I think what you're going to see is a lot more representation and a lot more leadership. I mean, actually, the mayor of Houston is a diverse individual, and so the more you have people from diverse backgrounds in leadership positions, I think it's a snowball. I think it actually is a catalyst to see more, and that's what I expect here in Houston, is to see more diverse candidates take leadership roles in the city and in the state.
One of the reasons I'm most surprised that this is an issue that we are continuing to talk about is just when you look at how representation in the country is shifting, and we're talking to business leaders, this is a business opportunity. If we think about how much the Hispanic community is growing within this country, I want to take a look at some numbers in terms of the economic powerhouse that is the Hispanic community. They're the nation's youngest working group, buying power of close to $2 trillion, and aggregate household income of more than $1.2 trillion. What's missing here in terms of why the business community isn't capitalizing on this opportunity?
Well, Caroline, nothing is missing. I think the numbers are so compelling, right? I mean, diversity is good business. And I think organizations, corporations are starting to wake up to that reality. When you have a more diverse workforce, when you have a more diverse set of directors or leaders, it just helps you understand better your customers. This is the reality of your customer base. It's a diverse customer base, and to me, it's unimaginable, understanding your customer needs, your customer wants, if you as an organization are not diverse. So, I mean, what I would expect to see is, this, acknowledgement, and that diversity is good for business. It's not just the right thing to do, but it's also the smart thing to do across corporations.
And Mauricio, we started this conversation with you talking about how you feel this obligation to speak out on this issue. But if you take a zoom out a little bit, the role of the CEO has changed almost completely in the last 5 years, where now almost every CEO is feeling this pressure to speak out on social issues and not just think about the bottom line. And if you think about how the Business Roundtable changed their prerogative in terms of what they were pushing forward, that's changed as well to include social issues. How has that impacted you as a CEO, and how do you choose what to speak out on?
Well, so as you said, I mean, the role of the CEO has changed tremendously. And, while it is incredibly rewarding at this time, it's also very challenging, because, I mean, it's no longer enough to make profits or to create value for shareholders. Your stakeholder base has actually broadened, and you need to make sure that you're creating value for all stakeholders. And you have to take a leadership position on environmental, on economic issues, and social issues. For me, I always look at our corporate values as my North Star, as my personal North Star, in terms of where I can inject myself in the conversation. I mean, As a CEO, I may have, personal, position on things, but if they don't have a relationship with the purpose of the company, with the values of our company, I can do that on a personal basis, but not necessarily as a CEO. So I look at our corporate values as a guide, as guidance on where I can opine. And obviously, diversity, equity, and inclusion is one of our corporate values, and that's why I felt so strongly, to speak against social injustice last year and to lend my voice in this. And not only that, to make sure that the company that I lead is at the forefront of these issues, and that we are openly talking about it, and that we're actually making significant changes as a company.
Well, Mauricio, I'm seeing some members in the stream who are very appreciative of the work that you're doing. We have Bernice. She says saludos from Dallas, Texas. She says NRG is a great place to work, and Mauricio Gutierrez is definitely a role model for me as a Hispanic worker working in the U.S. So Bernice, thanks for joining us here on LinkedIn News Live.
Gracias.
And I also have Eduardo from Spain, Beth from New Jersey, and Robert from San Francisco. And if you're just joining us, I'm here with Mauricio Gutierrez. We're having a conversation about all things leadership and management as we celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month. Speaking of leadership and management, everyone's had a hard time during this pandemic, but what has it been like from the seat of a CEO? And as the world of work has changed, what's top of mind for you?
Well, overnight, our world completely changed. Over 90% of our office employees actually went to work remotely. And I said office because, I lead a company that provides an essential service, electricity. So many of my colleagues didn't have the opportunity to stay home or to go or to work from home. They had to report every day to all the power plants and call centers to make sure that we enjoyed, this, very essential service. So to them, they have my, greatest appreciation for what they have done. They're truly frontline workers. But, for the ones that, went to remote work status, that was the most challenging thing for me. It is, how do we continue to perform as an organization, but at the same time, maintain the culture that we have and that we have been able to create here in the workplace and take it to your living room, because that's where people were working. That was the most challenging thing in my mind, is how do we ensure that we provide a safe and well-being in their homes? How do we ensure that we maintain a cohesive culture? How do we engage with people? That was the most challenging thing. And obviously, all our efforts and everything that we did had, the number one priority, which was, protecting the safety and well-being of our employees. Because without that, we just couldn't provide the service that we do.
I did read, I think it was in Inc. or maybe somewhere else, that you're a huge fan of in-person work. So throughout this pandemic, what do you think is missing with the hybrid model that a lot of companies are adopting right now? And did you learn anything that you do better working from home than, say, going into the office?
Absolutely. I'm a big fan of in-person. I think the amount of collaboration and I call it the spark moments happen when, not necessarily, during the meeting, but, either before or after the meeting. So I am a big fan of in-place collaboration. But at the same time, I recognize that there is technology. There is a technology that, showed us that we can actually work remotely, that flexibility is going to be one of the key attributes that employees are looking for. And we have to incorporate that. I can't just think about how we did things in the past. I have to think about what is the best path, what is the best workplace in the future. And, last year I kicked off an initiative that I called Workplace 21, which was reimagining the workplace of the future, given the new technologies that we were seeing. So I think flexibility is going to be paramount as we think about the workplace on the future. I think hybrid workforce is going to happen. But when we actually meet in the office, we need to make sure that it's with intention. And the intention is collaboration, and it's creating those spark moments. So that's going to be the balancing act. And obviously, like the rest of the other CEOs, we're trying to figure out what is the right balance, what is the right setup for the workplace of the future.
Speaking of the value of in-person work, we have a question here in the stream from Maria. She's asking, do you have advice on how someone can find a mentor, especially in a time when a lot of people are working remotely and can't get that face-to-face?
Well, so I'm so glad that you're asking me about mentorship, because that is one of the key things that is necessary for success, and it goes both ways. It's not just about somebody wanting to mentoring you, but it's also about seeking mentorship. And the one thing that I will tell Maria is that you have a great opportunity with the new digital technologies that we have, like this call, to reach out to, perhaps a much broader audience, of potential mentors than in the past. I actually think that, this allows us to interact with a lot more people than we did in the past in a more efficient way. So, reach out, talk to people, and don't be discouraged if somebody tells you that they don't want to be your mentor. I mean, sometimes we, don't fully appreciate what other people are going through. And, even if they have the best intentions, perhaps they're not in the right frame of mind to be your mentor, and you have to respect that. But don't be discouraged. Just keep on asking people that you actually respect and that you think that can create value for you, to take a place and to be a possible mentor.
Adding to that discussion, we have another question here from Fernando. He asked, Mauricio, what is the main advice that you give to a young Hispanic individuals trying to excel in the corporate world in today's environment? And I'll add to that question. I read that you like to tell your mentees that they don't have to leave their identity at the door when they walk into the office. So I'd love to get your reasoning behind why you say that, and then also answer Fernando's question.
Well, so let me start with the generic question, and then I'm going to go to the one that I think is, perhaps is the one that worked, for me. So ingredients of success, Fernando. The first is find your passion. Okay, do something that you really like. Anything that you choose is going to be difficult. So might as well just do something that you really like and you're passionate. The second thing is just, awareness. I have always been, and this comes from my swimming days. I would have loved to be a butterfly swimmer, but I was not good at it. I was good at freestyle. And just that awareness is important. Not only is do what you want to do, but also what you're good at. And then the third thing is excellence, preparation. Excel at whatever you decide to do. So those are the three key ingredients that you have for success. So, if you're a young Hispanic, make sure that you're looking at those three, because that's going to increase the probability of success. Now, let me tell you what, is the one that I found, just so important in my life. And, when I moved to Houston, in the energy industry, I went into trading. And obviously in the trading world back then, you had to buy and sell commodities on the phone. And, English being my second language, that was a little bit, I would just say, they speak very, very fast when you're talking to the New York Mercantile Exchange, trading pit. And I was very aware of my accent. I was very aware of my language. And then somebody came to me and said, Mauricio, that is your personal brand. Everybody knows when you speak, because everybody, recognizes your voice. And that hit home. What they were basically trying to say is embrace your individuality, embrace your personal brand, embrace your heritage, because that's the uniqueness that you bring to the table. And that uniqueness is incredibly valuable in today's corporate world. So as opposed to shying away from it, embrace it, because people and employers are looking for that uniqueness.
I think that's so refreshing to hear, just because we recently did a survey on LinkedIn of Latinos professionals and their experience in the workplace. And those with thicker accents told us that they do feel like they face more discrimination. So do you think we're moving in the right direction with this? And what do you have to say, I guess, to those who are not embracing their accents and do feel like they have to still continue to go to work and hide who they really are?
Well, if you don't, then there is nothing that differentiates you from someone else. If you already have that, that trait, that characteristic that makes you so unique and so special, just embrace it. I mean, I think people will recognize it. I think people are recognizing it more and more. I definitely do in at NRG. When somebody brings a different point of view, when somebody brings their own specific, upbringing and culture, it is what I'm looking for, because that's what that helps us understand better our customers. If it was all homogeneous, we would not be able to serve our customers in the best possible way, because we wouldn't understand them. So, I guess my advice would be embrace it, because, people more and more will value it.
I see many people in the stream very thankful for that style of leadership right now. Mauricio Jeffrey says, amen, celebrate the gifts you were born with. And Mauricio, before I let you go, we have a ton of job seekers joining us in the stream right now. Any go-to hiring techniques, any go-to questions, or what do you look for when you're hiring?
I look for people that have done their homework. So when they talk to me, they know about NRG, they know about the position, they know about what we do, they know about where we're going. Number one. Number two, I like people that are hungry. You want to be there. You want to have that job, and you believe that you're the best person for that job. So, perhaps this has a negative connotation, but I love people that have a chip on their shoulder, because they're always looking at bettering themselves. And that attitude of, continuous improvement, I really value that, because our journeys are not, it's just a journey. I mean, today you're doing something, tomorrow you're going to progress and do something else. It is that attribute that you have of constantly bettering yourself that really is going to distinguish, and it's going to allow you to, to continue progressing in your career.
You heard it here first on LinkedIn News Live. If you have a chip on your shoulder out there and want to work for NRG Energy, make sure Mauricio knows about it in your interview. Mauricio, it's been such a pleasure speaking with you. I've gained so much from the conversation, and I can tell the stream is just so appreciative of your time.
Great. Thank you, Carolina. It's been great to speaking with you today, and look forward to do this in the future.
Yeah, me as well. Thank you. That was Mauricio Gutierrez. He's the CEO of NRG Energy, walking us through how he led a 7,000 person company through the pandemic and helping us celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month. I've seen a great conversation here in the feed. So if you want to continue it, be sure to check out the news module to the right of your LinkedIn feed. Or if you're in mobile, you can click into that search box. On Monday, my colleague, Nina Melendez, will be speaking with an expert on anxiety. She'll walk you through how anxiety can be good and bad for your career. That's here on the LinkedIn news page at 3 Eastern. I'm Caroline Fairchild. Thank you so much for joining us.